Welcome, it's Nicole from Outer Inner Space, and today we're going to be talking about the North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra Transit. So many of you might have already viewed my North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio video, and it is worth watching that video even as you come across this one, whenever that might be throughout the transit, because we are talking about a progression here, and we're talking about these phases, these anchor points in time. And even though we're going to be focused more on the Aries and Libra energies, when the moon does transit, the points and the positions where the South Node and the North Node has just been in Taurus and Scorpio, there is still relevance there. It's not just a linear progression, especially with the moon. It's definitely not a linear progression. What we're talking about are these anchor points in time with the nodes. We're talking about past anchor points and future anchor points, and what we do in the present moment to either direct ourselves out of certain South Node energies, and what we do in the present moment to direct ourselves towards North Node energies, the higher expression and evolutionary step up from old patterns, from old structures, from old ways of being that don't necessarily belong to us. When you consider the moon and the phases and the frequency in which the moon traverses your chart and also the collective timeline, different aspects of our history and different glimpses into our future get presented to us depending on how tuned we are, depending how open we are, depending on clearing that we've done, depending on a variety of different factors. And so when we're talking about the moon and the nodes specifically, we're talking about resonance, we're talking about authentic calibration, we're talking about what is harmonically true from the depths of us. And that's why the North and South Node is so important as a collective, and personally your own personal placements of this, because over time, as the nodes travel backwards, reversed in the chart, we're undoing old patterning that we've picked up from other people. That in a bracket here is very specific to what we're going to be looking at over the next phase of South Node in Libra, specifically because of that other people aspect. But we're also looking at how that feels within us, So these sort of issues are going to come up depending on where the moon is presently, depending on your own nodes. But it's not going to be like a progressive day-to-day incline of advancement or progression, a progressiveness of progression. It's going to move in the way that the tides move. It's going to move in a way where sometimes there will be a peak energy, there will be a decline in energy, there will be a waxing, and there will be a waning. So as we talk about the themes of the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra in this video, it is important just to keep in mind the fact that you're going to be working with this energy on a very personal and individual level, and what is occurring for you is absolutely going to be completely different to what is occurring for someone else, even if they have the same moon sign, and even if they are tuned to the moon in what you might describe as a similar way to you. They have different life experiences, they have different anchor points in time. And so just keeping in mind that this is a really personal, individual focus to keep in mind when we're talking about this context, because our moon energy is very unique to us. It's very special because it is a representation of our inner resonance, of our core frequency. So as the nodes were going through Taurus and Scorpio, we were looking at our values, what's true to our values, what we really resonate with, where we want to invest our energy, where we want to invest our emotional energy, where we want to invest our money, what is a good return on our investment, what are we building longer term, what our standard of self-esteem is, where has that been impacted. And when we're looking at the opposition to that in Scorpio, the South Node focus there is we were looking at our fears, we were looking at energy that we've absorbed from other people, energy that we've stored and kept stuck, kept hidden, energy which doesn't belong to us but seemed important to our identity. These kinds of things, when we aren't brought up, which most of us aren't, generalization there, understanding that energy is something that we have the ability to control our processing of, which I'll talk about later in this video, those South Node Scorpio energies of fear, of stuck energy, of resentment, of anger held within the body impacts those higher expressions of Taurus, like how we operate in the world, what we think our worth is, what we feel we're worth. So one thing that is really important to keep in mind is that with South Node energy and North Node energy, it's not like we're going to be going only towards the qualities of Aries and becoming averse to the qualities of Libra. Each sign has a higher expression of that sign and a lower expression of that sign. Aries has a higher expression, Aries qualities, and a lower expression, same with Libra. So with the North and the South Node, the goal is to go towards the higher vibrational expressions of Aries in this instance, and steering our energy away from the lower expressions of Libra, the South Node energy. So it's not like saying no to being diplomatic. It's not about saying no to relationships. It's not about saying no to Venusian energy. It's about using that higher expression of Aries energy, which we'll talk about shortly, so that when we are in a situation where this dynamic, this axis is playing out, we don't fall into those lower vibrational qualities of Libra, because that's where we get stuck in karmic loops. It's where we get stuck in certain relationship dynamics. It's where we get stuck in expression dynamics and personal dynamics, which becomes part of our field, which becomes energy that we repeat again and again because it is part of our field, until we learn how to synthesize that energy, synthesize that axis, and bring in the higher vibrational qualities, the North Node aspects, letting go of the South Node aspects. It doesn't mean that because the North Node is in Aries that you can be aggressive and arrogant towards people just because that is the guiding light for the next period of time because of the North Node. It's about looking at what is the higher quality of Aries that we can bring to this kind of exchange. So that would be standing in your light, standing in your truth, and emitting a vibration with your energy field, with your presence in yourself, with your I am existence that creates a ripple effect to others. And how that's received by others is up to them. It's not up to you. And that will always be the case. But so long as you're standing in what is true for you, and as long as you are then bringing in the higher vibrational qualities of Libra, where you're not being, like what the lower vibrational quality of Aries would be, my way or the highway, but you're looking to find that balance point in between, that is a true representation of how to navigate the North Node and the South Node. So in the same way that Aries has a higher and lower vibrational quality, it's still one axis, it's still one energy, but there's a spectrum there. And that's true for the sign of Aries, it's true for the sign of Libra, it's true for all of the signs, but also keeping in mind that the axis of Aries and Libra is one spectrum. So it's not about the energies being polar opposites and there's none of that in that. It's about seeing that this is one axis, it's a spectrum. So it's about finding that middle range, that balance point. Where are you on the spectrum of those energy frequencies, of those energetic expressions of Aries and Libra? And it's when we tune into the higher vibrational qualities of our own personal North Node, and as we work through the collective North Node in the period of time that the transit is for us all, that's how we make those frequency jumps into a higher expression, into new vibration, into a whole different quantum arena, when we're using that North Node energy as a guiding light, as a North Star to where we want to be, to our future. This is where, like I was talking about, the anchor points in time, there is an anchor point in time in your future which you can get a sense of, that resonant moon energy. There's a sense of it. There's a sense of what your goals would feel like, or a sense of what they look like. There's a sense of the resonance of that future point. And so if we use those North Node qualities, if we tune into this potential, then we advance along that path. But when we are noting that we are expressing South Node qualities, whether that be the transiting South Node or our own personal South Node, and we're not actually making any behavioral changes to the way that our energy is operating, that's when that distance between what we hope for and where we are feels like a really big divide. But it's in those very subtle shifts in our energetic expression personally that we are able to eventually see exponential growth towards those goals, towards those future anchor points in time. And we start to let go of that old conditioning, the old patterns that we've stored within us that keep us stuck where we are, which creates a cloud over what we hope to become, or prevents us from even seeing what those future goals are, because it's likely that you are aware of what is holding you back but feel stuck in that pattern. And so some of the things that I'll talk about here and some of the resources listed in the description box can help you start to release those old patterns, start to see that you actually have, you absolutely have the power to begin allowing those South Node qualities to disintegrate so that you can advance more fully and start to reinforce those North Node qualities within yourself personally on an individual level, which then creates ripple effects into the field, changes the whole structure of how you perceive things, and brings in the opportunities and the connections and those on your fractal, those who are aligned with where you want to go, those who hear what you have to say, those who you resonate with. And it's kind of amazing with the North Node in Aries at the moment, or soon to be at the point in time when I'm recording this, is that what we are looking at here is how we handle our energy, how we express ourselves in the world. Aries energy and first house energy has to do with our I am presence. It's our physical embodiment. It's our way of showing up in the world, whether that be how we carry ourselves, whether that be how we dress, how we emit energy. It is an energy emission, Aries energy. And so with the North Node here, it's about really owning the fact that you are a vibrational being. You have an emission. And so what are you going to do with it? This is where we tap into where we've just been with the North Node in Taurus, where we've been checking what we value, what is worth it to us, what we want for ourselves in the future down the line, what we're building towards. Now we have to embody that being the choices that we make, that being what our body, what we personally participate in, that being how we emit energy into the world, whether that be what we say, what we do. Are we actually in alignment with our values and our beliefs? North Node in Aries energy is about taking that personal responsibility, that authority over our essence. It's about being in alignment with what is true for us and emitting that. And that changes everything. That contributes to the field. This axis of Aries in Libra, it's the self and the other. It's the self and how that self is reflected back to us in our relationships, in our audience, in groups, in the outside world. So what are the reflections that you're getting back about how you project yourself? What are the reflections that you're receiving in response to how you're communicating? What are the responses that you're getting when you know you're not being in alignment with yourself? So if we look at the lower vibrational qualities of Libra, the South Node part of it would be, where have you compromised your sense of authenticity for the benefit of the group or for the benefit of another person? Where do you null your energy or suppress your life force because you feel it's necessary to belong? What are you compromising within your spirit in order to have connection? Those kinds of connections where those factors are in play, where you are detrimenting your own true expression for the sake of others, this is how you create karma. This is how you get stuck in these loops. This is how you diminish your life force and your self-worth, because it's not truly you. And there's certainly a fear involved in that. South Node in Scorpio, where we've just been, is looking at that directly. So acknowledging the data of how you resonate what your energy level is in certain dynamics, and taking actual note of that information that you're getting, which will be a body sensation, which will be a note of your energy levels. It'll be if you're holding tension anywhere in your body, if you get headaches around certain people, if your energy is depleted around certain people, if you're feeling anxious going into a certain dynamic. Like, this is all pertinent data that is really important to our well-being, but so often we override this information with how we should act, what we should be doing, what they would expect of us, or mental compromises or mental loopholes which override what is an instant piece of data, those physical sensations. Aries North Node is about listening to those physical sensations. It's noting how your energy peaks or troughs. It's noticing whether you're short of breath, whether you literally can't breathe around someone. This is all relevant. So throughout this transit, I would encourage you, if you should choose, to really take note of this. Like, do little note downloads after you have certain interactions and use the data for your benefit, whether that be then doing some body work to release energy that's yours or not yours. This is another thing with the South Node in Libra, is if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Gabor Mate, he talks extensively about the attachment versus authenticity compromise that we make when we're young, because we need love to survive, and we learn these patterns so young. We need connection to survive, and so we make compromises. Libra, this is a South Node issue, when these compromises start to detriment our body. And it's actually so pertinent if you think about authenticity and attachment. This is the axis of Libra and Aries. And it's no one's fault, because we don't get taught anything about how to clear energy that doesn't belong to us, how to even discern Libra energy that doesn't belong to us. This discernment piece, this is a higher vibrational quality of Libra, discernment. So when we are consciously working with the North Node and South Node aspects, the higher vibrational qualities of the South Node sign come to the fore. It becomes part of your essence. It becomes part of your vibration. And that's true for your own personal South Node sign. Like, it's not about going away from the South Node qualities. Like I said before, it's about understanding the spectrum there and working with the entirety of it. It's never about oppression or dismissal of one or the other. It's about synthesizing the axis. When we take on energies, whether that be from family members, from our friendship groups, from even just someone you pass on the street, from movies, from TV shows, from YouTube videos, when we take on those energies, we are in that Libra energy. We're in that energy where we are exchanging ideas, life force, with an outer force, an outer entity. So if we are unskilled in practicing, body hygiene, like spiritual hygiene, energetic hygiene, where we have a practice of cleansing what is not ours from us, discerning and then releasing what is not ours from us, that gets stored in the body. And so throughout this transit, body work and understanding how the body stores trauma, how the body stores energy, how your essence, your I am essence, is not just your physical body that stops at your skin level. It expands feet out of you into your field, which then connects to the collective field. Feeling compressed, feeling like you can't see beyond what is an immediate issue to you, is showing you that you have other energy within your field that's preventing vision. It's preventing a sense of ease. And when this gets compounded by not processing what we've stored or what we have in our field, this is how disease and illness begins. And so North Node and Aries energy is really inviting us to start working with the body, with stored energy, noticing where in the body you feel tense. That is a indicator. Where in the body there's pain, that's an indicator. It's part of the healing process because the body is alerting you there's something here that isn't yours. Let's work with it. And with Mars energy, it's about getting physical about it. It's about really understanding that your physical body is an antenna. There's a link to some notes below about this body as an antenna. It is receiving and emitting energy all the time. And in order to have a clear signal, we need to be able to clear what's not ours, that South Node in Libra energy. So doing body work, whether that be on your own, doing yoga or walking or any kind of physical expression to move stuck energy or to just bring in new life force to the body is going to be really beautiful. And just keep in mind as well that just because it's Mars energy in the North Node, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like aggressive, physical, fast, assertive emissions in this case. Use the axis. It can be yin yoga. It can be dance. It can be the Venusian expression. That's working with the axis. That's what we want here. We want to synthesize the axis. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be harsh to your body. If you hate running, then that's not going to help you. You're just going to create even more tension within yourself. So it's about coming back to that moon energy of like, what's true for you? What is the most comfortable thing for you to create this communication with your body, to create this dialogue with your body so that you can understand that when certain pain points or tension or subtle indicators like pins and needles or shortness of breath or increased adrenal response comes up, that you're able to take that data and use that data, actually begin the process of creating this new dynamic within you and within your field, which emits this vibration of embodiment. Another thing as well with the North Node and the South Node energy is that as you start to do this, there will be anger or repressed issues coming to the surface. And the question will be, how are you going to work with that? So if there is instances of anger for what you have taken on or ways of acting because you felt like you needed to, things of this nature, are you going to then express that anger out onto the other and create another chaotic dynamic, or are you going to work with that energy within yourself and then clear that energy to a certain extent to be able to have clear vision to bring in that higher vibrational quality of Libra and work on diplomatic response? I feel like this anger part, whether that be in your personal relationships or in the collective as a whole of what's going on, and just so many issues of injustice, Libra, South Node, coming up, that will ignite a feeling of frustration and this Mars masculine energy. But if we're fighting fire with fire, how much progress can we really make? So it's about working within yourself to bring yourself to a point where you're effective, where your communication is effective. It's about using the fuel that is your anger. It's a healthy emotion. Everybody needs to be able to healthily express anger. It's how things get done. But there is a difference between being effective with anger and being destructive with anger. And that's certainly something that we're going to be seeing throughout this transit. Just look at some of the leaders in the world today, like they're angry little boys. They're so mad and they're getting nothing done that's effective for the collective because they just direct it like missiles. So this is where we can bring in some of the awareness of what else is happening in the sky, understanding, like, let's see, we're going to have Pluto is just about to return to Capricorn for a period of time during this transit. So a lot of those structures that have been created by these misguided people are going to be really, really, really visible to us. We're going to be able to see this. It's the last degrees of Pluto and Capricorn. That's structures, that's authority, that's power dynamics on a grand level. So and it's good. It's bad in a sense that it's been like this, but it's good because it's changing. But the thing is with the North Node in Aries is like we have to make these individual personal changes because we can't be projecting all these ideals onto other people if we're not processing the energy ourselves. This is an individual ripple effect which creates larger ripple effects, and this is when Pluto lands in Aquarius for the long term, not going back into Capricorn for many, many, many years. This is where those little personal changes start to create adjustments in the field on an energetic, subtle level first. This is Pluto energy. So that is personal, invisible authority being set into the field, creating these shifts. And then you attract people who resonate with you. You create these really functional fractals, these smaller groups where it's not just one guy at the top. And I'm not hating on men, I'm just saying that. One entity at the top dictating for other people. We're seeing the destructiveness of that. It's about creating these microcosms that are healthy, that are functional, that deliver what it is like these unique groups need. That's Pluto and Aquarius energies. So this is where we're going. This is what we can do. So again, it comes back to that individual level of like knowing what's true. It's about not participating in groups that actually don't align with you. South Node in Libra, and it's about using what we've learned with the South Node in Scorpio to get beyond the fears of maybe some things will break down, maybe some things will collapse, but that's okay. That's nature. That's a regenerative force. The right things will come to you when you're vibrating at a level which is true for you.
What else is quite amazing is that we have Saturn in Pisces, and that is teaching us to take our intuition seriously, to take our imagination seriously, to take these subtle senses very seriously, and also to understand the seriousness of our interconnection. Pisces is the last sign. It's an accumulation of all things. It's on the axis of health, of healing with Virgo. So with Saturn, it's showing us how we override these subtle influences that are a part of us, that make us up, that make up our experience. With the North Node in Aries, it's looking about our personal experience, our personal drives, our personal ambitions. And it's really important to understand that you can't just like override things like dreams and imaginations and visions, extrasensory perceptions. Like they're a part of our experience, and we need to take that stuff seriously because it's essential to a holistic functioning organism. Look at healthcare and how dangerous it is, where if you have subtle senses, and you talk about it, you get told that there's like a psychotic problem with you. Like individual bases need to be acknowledged here, but that's where that power dynamic comes in with Pluto energy. And Saturn's showing us, be in integrity, stand up for what's true for you, stand up for what your experiences are, for your lineage. Saturn in Pisces is showing us healing, our ability to take ownership of our healing journey, healing through imagination, healing through dream processes. All that subtle energy data is so valuable, and it's really important not to override that for logic and for social norms and for old structures that were designed to repress. That's a lower expression of Pisces energy, and there's going to be a certain level of sadness that comes out of this transit because we're actually being invited to look at what we've stored and captured and ways we've been operating, ways we've been spending our emissions essentially, which really, it's energy that wasn't ours to begin with. But how do you know when you're not told, when you've got hidden data and outliers get removed, etc. But what's cool is that we know on like a bone level, Saturn rules the bones, is like we know what's true. We've got it all within us. It's all there. It's just a matter of tapping into that and attuning to that. So coming back to the nodes and the moon, like that's resonance, that's real attunement to what's true for you. And you know, and Saturn's teaching you like, okay, now we have to put this in place, because then when Saturn goes into Aries, that's a whole new level of personal power. That's a whole new level of operating in integrity. So here we have this really beautiful healing period, and it's up to you to take advantage of it. With Jupiter in Taurus for part of this transit, Jupiter will also go into Gemini for part of the transit, and Uranus in Taurus. Well, let's talk about Jupiter in Taurus first. Is your belief systems. It's about knowledge. It's about gaining wisdom. It's about learning. It's about broadening your perspective. It's about expanding your vision of what's possible. What's possible for the human body to achieve. What's possible in terms of self-healing. What's possible in terms of what you're capable of as an individual. What's possible in terms of your power. You're being invited with this placement of Jupiter in Taurus to expand your vision of what can be built, what can be nurtured, what seeds you can plant to build a future that's sustainable, to build a future that provides abundance for yourself and for your community and for your lineage going forward. It's showing us how connected we actually are to nature, and when we are oblivious to that connection, how much destruction can come from that, how nature fights back in her own way when we keep abusing her like that. It's showing us how we are operating in natural cycles like nature. We are natural beings. We need to work with that. It's one unit. We're all in this one unit, this one song. And with Uranus in Taurus, this is the future. This is light frequency. This is sound frequency. So again, resonance, where we need to tap into these ancient ways of healing through visions, through vibrational healing, through connecting to nature as a regenerative force.
This wisdom is stored in the earth, it's stored in the field. And so if we're actually following the North Node in Aries and calibrating our physical vessel to a point where it's functioning in a resonant manner, in a harmonic manner, that would be the higher expression of Libra energy, then we will be able to see. Uranus is about being able to see these potentials. We will be able to see around corners. We will be able to see future possibilities or solve the problems that are plaguing the earth, climate issues, these kinds of things. We'll be able to see that because we're not vibrating at a level where the problem was created. So there is more I could say on this, but what I would suggest is that in the description box, I have curated a series of links that are going to add a different layer to what I've spoken about here today. I can't communicate everything that I'm thinking on this in one half an hour video, but check out those links if you like. And thank you for listening. And I hope you found some value in this, and I wish you well.